Aircraft incoming! Good job! Nice shot! Target hit! Good job! Nice shot! Enemy torpedo spotted! Target hit! The situation is under control. Enemy ship destroyed.
Hey everyone, it's DFA, welcome back to the channel, and today we're taking a look at part 4 of my cruiser's guide, which is dedicated to torpedoes, and we will be using the perfect vehicle for that, the tier 9 Japanese heavy cruiser Ibuki. And why is it perfect? Well, you've already seen the other guys. Ibuki, it's your typical tier 9 ship. It's a minor improvement over the tier 8, the Takao, which means unfortunately stuff like the Stalingrad and the Smolensk and all other tier 10 cruisers quite a lot. So yeah, staying with that thing, it's going to be a challenge. Yeah, because when we take a look at the stats, the survivability it's not very good. Only the concealment is excellent at 8 km, a trademark of Japanese cruisers. Maneuverability and speed are alright, that's good. The guns, no upgrade over the Takao, essentially the same story, which means it's not very good because you're now at tier 9 facing a lot of tier 10 and your turret rotation still sucks. That's something that you absolutely have to improve with your first equipment slot. Essentially secondaries, none of them, no auto secondaries, and now we come to the torpedoes and the meat of the ship. That's an upgrade over the Takao. You still get the same number of torpedoes, but you now have a range of almost 10 kilometers. So with the right camo you can actually bring it to 10 kilometers. So basically your torpedoes are your only weapon, and that's why I've chosen this ship to talk about torpedoes management. And yeah, if we talk about the A8, it's an improvement over the Takao. You do get an AA skill, but don't get too excited. You still have to run for your life when there is a CV on the enemy team. Yep, unfortunately there is one on the enemy team, and Essex, that's not good. And Montana, that's alright. Yoshino, we have to watch out for this guy, he can take us down, and the Venezia as well. So that's your typical engagement with a tier 9 ship. You are up tiered, and half of the ships of the enemy team can take you out absolutely no problem, and there is a CV to make it even more complicated. So what are we going to do? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to stick with that Holland, because it's going to be our umbrella against the CV. We absolutely need it. If we get isolated and spotted and the CV decides to focus off, which they usually do, it's game over. So yes, if there was no CV, I would be very aggressive, but now I'm just going to be a really nice puppy and stick with that guy, and hopefully he starts moving, which he does. Amazing. He does seem to be willing to play. That's very, very good. Let's stick with him for the moment. And so yes, let's talk about torpedoes, the topic of that guide. There are actually 3 things you can do with your torpedoes. You've seen them in the intro, more or less. So the first thing you can do is actually deny an area, where you know that the enemy ship is going to enter an area and you can actually launch torpedoes to maybe try to get a blind shot. The second thing is actually take out an enemy ship, and that's the main purpose of these things. And the third option you have is actually to restrict the movement of the enemy. We will see that a little bit later in the gameplay, you'll see what I mean. So immediately you see that I am putting the Haaland between me and the enemy CV. So far it's working quite alright, and there you go, the Yoshino and the Venezia. Time to run for my life, but I'm not going to do so without firing my torpedoes in the general direction of the Yoshino. If he decides to push forward, there you go, 2 fires. Which this is what I would do if I was him. Then he will eventually have to cross my barrage of torpedoes, and that is what I'm basically betting on. So remember, those torpedoes have a range of almost 10 kilometers. You have to use them. Even if you have another type of cruiser with a more limited range, just fire those torpedoes. Even if you do not have a clear shot at the enemy team, it's better to use them. They will reload anyway. There you go. That's 1 hit on the Yoshino already. Obviously, we're going to try to do it again, but I should be careful because, yeah, you see, I'm going to fire my torpedoes and the DD is going to absorb all of them. So that's my mistake. You have to watch out for what your teammates are actually going to do, and I would really appreciate it if you do not camp in front of me, the Haaland, because it's a bit annoying. But let's go back to the Yoshino. What are our options? We know that it's going to probably change direction after he's been hit with the torpedoes of the DD. This is what I would do if I was him. He's actually taking a couple of hits there and he's stopping. I don't know if it's going to charge again because he probably thinks that everything is behind. So I'm going to launch torpedoes a bit wide in its general direction. If he decides to move forward or backwards, he will at least take 1 or 2 of them, and I should be able to take a couple of hits. And now it's time to run away and disengage, because that thing can take me out absolutely no problem. Sure enough, he sets me on fire again. This is the story of my life with the Ibuki. It's extremely complicated to play against tier 10, and you do meet a lot of them, unfortunately. And sure enough, I hit a wall. That's a nice metaphor for playing that thing at tier 10. But we do manage to leave the Yoshino on fire and to take him out. So there we go, we did miss the last torpedo hit. I was not leading quite enough, it was quite difficult to anticipate its movement, and now we're going back to the rest of the team, support them at D. And here we are, Rogumo to our left, probably getting ready to fire at us, Montana right in front of us, and the CV behind us. The CV is probably going to be targeted by the Montana, and the enemy DD is going to focus me. This popped up smoke. I'm going to slow down, change direction to avoid its torpedoes, and essentially, so he was not really leading, anticipating my movements. I'm going to fire torpedoes into the smoke screen now, and I'm going to do that in I would say, to cover the widest area possible. What I want to do there is essentially fire torpedoes to restrict its movement. If he decides to show broadside to fire another set of torpedoes, he might have a torpedo reload, it's going to take a couple of hits for me, and that should take him out actually. And while we're doing that, let's take a look at the situation with the Montana. CV is out, it's a 1 versus 1 between him and me, and I have no chance of coming out on top of that. There's absolutely no chance for me, except if I manage to land a salvo of torpedoes. There you go, there goes the Aoba who showed a little bit too much broadside and got caught with my torpedoes. So what I'm doing is I'm completely ignoring the Montana. I'm showing him my broadside. I'm letting him know that I'm absolutely not interested in him while I'm firing torpedoes. You generally want to hide your intentions. My only chance to come out on top of that engagement was that he kept moving in a straight line. And that's what he did, thinking that I was absolutely not paying attention and focusing him. So yeah, it's a bit like what you saw in the first minute of the intro. Don't engage a target with your guns that you've already engaged with your torpedoes. You want them to keep thinking that they're absolutely safe. And now there's a tricky situation for me that Benham is a little bit too close. Smoke screen, immediately we should be able to fire torpedoes at it. I don't know where it's going to go. I see that it's moving. Is it going to exit the smoke screen? In any case, I'm running away. I'm not trying my luck against it, and ouch, there's the other cruiser next to me. I have to run away and get out of this as quickly as possible. But yes, we can tell that the game is already lost, and there's no way I'm going to come out on top. So let's talk about, let's debrief this one. So we talked about positioning in the first iteration of the Cruiser's Guides with the Aoba. We talked about teamwork when we covered the Myoko, talked about map awareness when we covered the Takao, and we did use the Ibuki to talk about torpedoes, because indeed it's the only redeeming feature that you have. And so you use them in to deny an area to the enemy team, to restrict their movement, or let's say to make them pay a certain price if they decide to move, so typically firing at smoke screens, and essentially to take out other targets, and that is where you want to hide your intentions and let them think they are safe for as long as possible. If you're already detected, then that's okay, go ahead, you will have to lead as what you saw in the intro, but that's the end of the game for me, a CV, well, bye bye, exit DFA. Ah la la, Japanese cruisers, they get set on fire all the time very easily, and poof, bye. So yep, we did not win this one. That's the story of my life with the Ibuki. Not an easy grind by all means, but certainly a very interesting gameplay to show you the different ways of using torpedoes. And I hope you've enjoyed it. In the next guide we'll be finally talking about the Zao, and we will talking about concealment and reviewing the feature of that extremely interesting ship. And sure enough, end of the game we do get a battle star, and the flanking Montana gets why not, gets the MVP. Voila, that's it. So, see you next time for the Zao, and it will be an interesting one, I can promise you that. And in the meantime, stay safe, take care, that was DFA signing out, bye bye!